Welcome to the H-Files, where we delve into the untold stories. I am Mr. Andy, and today's episode is a special request from one of our subscribers, Scooter C. He has asked me to do justice to a story that deserves to be heard. And let me tell you, this is a story that will send shivers down your spine. It is widely acknowledged that in every war throughout history, countries involved understood exactly what they were asking their soldiers to do. Sending troops to fight means sending them into a living, breathing nightmare without escape. Those who come home physically unharmed still bear invisible, festering wounds that haunt them every day. Hollywood often romanticizes wars for profit and to increase enlistment numbers, but it rarely shows the scars that civilians cannot see. Every combat veteran deals with these experiences in their own way, but there are a few whose experiences were so beyond the nightmares of war that words cannot describe the unimaginable horrors they lived through. This episode is their story. Imagine being thrust into a situation where the odds of survival for ordinary Americans would be next to zero. But these were not ordinary men. These were United States Navy men, battle-hardened and tough as nails. And they stared death in the face and refused to flinch. Their courage and determination are a testament to the American human spirit. Join me as I recount their harrowing tale, a story that will leave you in awe of the bravery of these men. So buckle up, get ready for a ride that you will never forget. The U.S.S. Indianapolis, a magnificent, heavy cruiser of the Portland class, was constructed in Camden, New Jersey, and launched in 1931. This awe-inspiring vessel measured an impressive 610 feet in length and boasted a displacement of 9,950 tons. With a formidable armament consisting of 5-inch anti-aircraft guns. In the main battery of 9 8-inch guns, the ship was a force to be reckoned with in the high seas. The U.S.S. Indianapolis was powered by 8 boilers that turned 4 turbines, allowing it to reach an impressive top speed of just over 32 knots, making it one of the faster ships of the time. Its sleek and powerful design made it a sight to behold on the open waters. The ship was nothing short of impressive, but its true marvel was not in its appearance. No, it was the men who operated her that truly took the breath away. These brave souls came from all across the country and from all walks of life. They formed an unbreakable bond that became the beating heart of the vessel, and their dedication and courage were second to none. Fearlessly navigating treacherous waters and facing down any challenge that came their way. They were the true heroes of the high seas. The ship was merely a vessel, but it was these men who breathed life into her, making her an unstoppable force to be reckoned with. The U.S.S. Indianapolis was a symbol of bravery and resilience in the face of overwhelming odds. Through 10 major engagements, she braved the perils of Japanese submarines and the unforgiving elements of the Aleutian Islands in the Battle of the Coral Sea. Her valor altered the very course of the war as she stood firm, providing crucial support and engaging in fierce combat against the enemy, helping to destroy 2 Japanese carriers. Despite heavy fire, she fearlessly delivered fire support for U.S. Marines on Japanese-held islands, proving her mettle time and time again. However, tragedy struck on March 31, 1945, when a kamikaze plane unleashed devastation upon her by dropping a bomb just before crashing into the corner of the ship. The bomb detonated just under the hull, causing extensive damage. The crew's heroic efforts saved the ship from certain doom, a testament to their unwavering spirit and determination. The U.S.S. Indianapolis sailed into Mare Island Naval Shipyard for much-needed repairs and a brief rest for her exhausted crew. Arriving in mid-April, the extensive work to repair and overhaul the ship commenced, originally set to span a year. However, fate had a different plan for the Indianapolis. Amidst the clamor of the shipyard, a top-secret mission of unparalleled importance to national security was clandestinely unveiled. The Indianapolis was tasked with a covert and perilous mission. She was to sail at top speed to the remote island of Tinian, bearing a precious cargo of uranium. This uranium was destined for the assembly of the atomic bomb, known only as Little Boy, a weapon of unprecedented destruction. The Indianapolis, commanded by Captain Charles Butler McVay IV, departed Mare Island on July 16, 1945, and arrived at Tinian 10 days later on July 26th, where it delivered the bomb. The ship then received orders to sail to Guam, which was 123 miles away, to prepare for its next mission. Upon arrival at Guam, on the afternoon of July 27th, the Indianapolis spent the evening the following day restocking supplies and preparing to set sail for the Leyte Gulf to assist in preparing for the invasion of Japan. The operations officer at Guam personally informed Captain McVay that he needed to make all speed to Leyte Gulf and assured him that there was no risk of a submarine attack on his route. Therefore, the Indianapolis would not receive a destroyer escort and had no anti-submarine equipment, including sonar. During the night of July 29th, the sea was eerily calm and visibility was average. Captain McVay made the decision at 8 in the evening to cease the zigzagging pattern. Little did they know that lurking beneath the waves, Commander Hashimoto Machuria and his crew aboard the Japanese submarine I-58 were biding their time. At the stroke of midnight, the unsuspecting Indianapolis found itself in the crosshairs of impending doom. The deafening roar of 6 torpedoes being unleashed shattered the silence, hurtling toward the mighty cruiser with deadly intent. The first explosion tore through the ship's bow, while the second struck closer to the bridge, enveloping the vessel in chaos and destruction. As the ship's power faltered and communications fell silent, the engine room, oblivious to the unfolding tragedy, continued to propel the ship forward at 17 knots. Unbeknownst to him, this only hastened the relentless flooding of the already imperiled vessel, leaving the crew utterly helpless. The Indianapolis was rapidly succumbing to the relentless sea. Captain McVay made way to the radio room and ordered a distress call be sent. After making his way back to the bridge, the damage control officer recommended abandoning ship at 12:05. The captain refused, not wanting to give up the fight just yet. At 12:12, with the ship's fate sealed and the ship listing 60 degrees with waves mercilessly battering her side, the executive officer urged the captain to give the order to abandon ship. The electrical system had been knocked out by the second torpedo and was no longer functioning. There was no way to send the abandoned ship order shipwide, so the captain ordered the command be spread verbally, and quickly McVay then fought his way back to the radio room to check on any reply to his distress call. In doing so, the captain was swept overboard. In just 12 harrowing minutes, the once powerful and majestic Indianapolis was swallowed by the unforgiving ocean. Of the 1,195 men on board the Indianapolis, nearly 900 men made it off the ship. The remaining 300 went down, entombed in the ship they loved. Drift in the open ocean with very few life rafts, no fresh water, and no food. They prayed for the morning light to show rescue ships on the horizon. Little did they know that their real nightmare had just begun. What came next has gone down as the grisliest, bloodiest, and most terrifying shark attack in all recorded history. As the morning light began to dawn, the sailors realized that white tips and tiger sharks had been drawn to their location by the carnage the night before. As one survivor explained, you would hear a blood-curdling scream and look and see someone going under. Another survivor stated all we heard was men being eaten alive, every day, every night. Once a sailor's blood hit the water, the sharks would go into a feeding frenzy, ripping sailors apart. But it was not just the sharks these men had to worry about. Another survivor said the thirst and dehydration were unimaginable. Your tongue would swell, lips split open, the salt from the ocean would cake around your eyes and face and would dry in the scorching sun. In desperation, some men would try to drink the salt water, and those who were able to resist soon saw what happened to the brains of those who drank it. Terrifying, horrible hallucinations. The sailors, struggling to endure this utterly nightmarish situation, clung to hope that their fellow naval brothers were en route to rescue them. They anxiously scanned the horizon, convinced that they would spot them at any moment. Little did they realize that, at that precise instant, no help was on its way, as no one knew they were even there. But they should have, because they knew about it. Just before 12:30 in the morning Navy radio, Claire Young received a distress message from the U.S.S. Indianapolis. He personally delivered this message to the senior officer present, Commodore Jacob H. Jacobson, The message, although garbled, identified the ship, its position, and its condition. The Commodore's response was essentially to not reply at that time and to notify him immediately if any further message were received. Radioman Young stated that he believed the Commodore had been drinking, but he followed his orders. Furthermore, intelligence personnel had intercepted a message from Hashimoto about his sinking of a large warship, although it was missing the location and type of ship sunk. However, previous intelligence had placed the I-58 in the same quadrant where the Indianapolis was known to be, but no action was taken. When the Indianapolis failed to show up, one would expect alarms to be raised. But the port officials of the Pacific Fleet assumed the Indianapolis had arrived in Leyte Gulf and removed her name from the board. As a result, no one knew she was missing. Because of this ineptitude on 3 separate occasions, the weary, battle-hardened Navy sailors were on their own. Their brothers in arms were not coming. They spent 4 days in shark-infested waters, being eaten, dying of dehydration, suffering from horrible hallucinations from drinking salt water, their skin literally peeling off from the salt in the ocean, and roasting under the scorching sun. And just when it seemed they would all die out there, a miracle occurred. On the morning of August 2nd, Navy Lieutenant Wilbur Gwine, flying his Ventura patrol bomber, was in the bottom of the plane tying down a loose antenna when he spotted an oil slick in the ocean below. He had no reports of American ships in the area, so he assumed it was a Japanese sub and prepared to release depth charges. The last possible moment, one of his crewmen noticed small bumps in the surface, so Gwynn dove the plane to 300 feet to take a closer look. The moment he caught sight of groups of men clinging together, he radioed an urgent request for help. Gwynn immediately dropped a raft into the water, along with a radio transmitter. One survivor recalled, "I saw the plane make a dive and drop a raft. I was so thirsty I was sure there was fresh water on that raft. So I left the group I was with and started swimming towards it. But it was so weak I had to stop and rest. I looked down and there was a shark looking right back at me, and I said, 'Not now, Lord, not now.'" APBY Catalina plane, flown by Lieutenant Commander Robert Marks, arrived on the scene shortly after. Marks had standing orders not to land in the open ocean. However, after seeing numerous shark attacks occur on his brothers in arms, fighting for their lives, Marks took a vote of his crew and decided to land in the 12-foot swells. After safely landing the plane, he was able to lightly throttle the craft to allow him the ability to move around to pick up 56 sailors. Later that afternoon, the destroyer escort, the Cecil Doyle, and 6 other ships arrived on scene and rescued all the remaining survivors. One sailor from the Doyle recalled, "I tried to pull a man up by his arms, and his skin just pulled right off the bone. He screamed in agony. I quickly let go of his arms and grabbed him by the life vest and pulled him in. From then out we did our best to only grab their vests. The seawater had done such damage to their skin it just peeled off." The survivors were taken to Guam for immediate medical attention, and one would hope their ordeal would end there. But that was not the case. When Captain McVay was rescued, he refused medical attention until every surviving man or his command had been seen to. When he arrived at Guam, he was beyond livid that it took so long for the rescue to take place, and that so many men had been lost because of it. He wanted to know why it had taken so long for help to arrive, but an answer was never given to him. The Department of the Navy claimed the SOS messages were never received. However, declassified records later showed that 3 of them had been received and ignored for different reasons. One reason was a drunk commander who gave orders to not be disturbed, and the other reason was the belief that the intercepted Japanese code was a ruse by the Japanese to lure the Americans into a trap. Admiral Nimitz believed that a simple letter of reprimand to Captain McVay for not zigzagging and not giving the order to abandon ship faster was more than enough punishment for him. However, the Department of the Navy decided to court-martial the captain on 2 charges. 1, failure to abandon ship sooner, and 2, hazarding the ship and the men by not zigzagging. He was acquitted on the first charge, but found guilty on the second. It was recommended that due to the captain's excellent record, he should be shown clemency and return to active duty as captain. As of today, Captain McVay is the only ship captain to ever be court-martialed for losing a ship in wartime. Of those 900 men, who survived the sinking of their ship. Only 316 were left to be rescued. 4 days later, in the shark-infested waters of the Pacific. For decades after this event, those men suffered in silent agony, as those white tips and tiger sharks lurked beneath them, in their minds ready to gobble them up. They found some solace in getting together for reunions. After all those years, they still leaned on each other and held each other up when they could no longer tread the water. Captain McVay succumbed to those sharks on November 6, 1968. The nightmares and the constant hate mail from family members of sailors who had not survived those 4 days of hell proved too much for him to carry. He ended his misery with a pistol. The remaining men from the Indianapolis spent the next 50 years trying to remove the court-martial from their captain's record. And in October of 2000, the United States Congress passed a resolution that Captain McVay's record would reflect that. He is exonerated for the loss of the U.S.S. Indianapolis. President Clinton finalized it by signing the resolution. I have done my best in today's story to pay honor and tribute to these battle-hardened and tough as nails Navy men from the U.S.S. Indianapolis who experienced such a nightmarish ordeal that none of us could possibly imagine. To those men, I'd like to quote a passage from Our Heroes Welcome by Robert Longley. You have not failed your brothers. You clearly gave it all. And through your selfless actions, others will hear the call. So take your place of honor among those who have gone before, and know you will be remembered for now and evermore.